In this step, we're going to create your contact list and develop your CRM, or in other words, your customer relationship management tool, or in other words, your donor relationship management tool. Now, your contact list is foundational for all support raising. It's the foundational tool that you're going to be using to raise support, so it has to be done right. Now, God has given you a gift. He has given you the gift of a sphere of influence, an influence you need to use for your mission. This is a group of people that He has placed in your life, people who are family, people who are friends, people who are acquaintances or colleagues, etc. He has placed each one there for a special purpose, both for your sake and theirs. And we're going to explore together your sphere of influence, and we're going to figure out who God has placed in your life and whether or not He wants them on your support raising team. Now, in this step, I want you to follow my exact instructions, but I must warn you, it's going to be hard, tedious, and redundant work at times. This section may take you anywhere from 20 to 40 to 60 hours to complete if you do it properly. But I emphasize again that you must follow my exact instructions here. Do not take shortcuts and do not skip steps, even if you're a veteran support raiser. Okay, is that a deal? Now, when most people start to create their contact list, they brainstorm a group of people who they think are most likely to give to them. Perhaps they come up with a list of say 50 or 75 names. They find those people's addresses and they send them their first support letter. And I have to tell you, this is a big mistake and it's the wrong way to start. There is so much more involved in this process, and you may be leaving people off your list by mistake, people who would be willing to support you significantly. However, before we start creating your list, I'm going to teach you some essential contact list principles first. So let's jump in. Here's a principle. Do not decide for people whether they will give to you or not. Do not make this decision for them. Some of the excuses that support raisers make so they don't have to add people to their list are these. I can't ask them because they are too old and they're on a fixed income. Or they might say something like, because they're sick and it would be insensitive to ask them right now, I'm not going to ask them to support me. Or they don't know me very well. Or I don't think they'd be interested in what I do. Or you could insert any excuse here that you want. But sometimes when it comes to support raising, we get shy and we start to make excuses. Now, in most cases, if not all, it is wrong to decide for people whether they have the opportunity to support you or not, or whether you give them that opportunity to support you or not. Now, when I raised support, it was sometimes surprising to me who gave, and it was sometimes surprising to me who did not. And I can almost guarantee you that you will have surprises as well. And most people I coach will have surprises. It surprises them who supports them, and it's also surprising who does not. But this is very normal, and you need to be able to ask lots of different people for support, and you can't be making excuses for them. Now, another way of saying all this is do not rob someone of the opportunity to give to you. Do not steal their blessing by never giving them the opportunity because you have left them off your list. Now, if we truly believe Acts 20, verse 35, which says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive," then they will be more blessed than you by their giving. They will be more blessed than you by their giving. Now, we have to ask ourselves, do we really believe this verse? Because if so, then we should not be deciding for people whether they give to us or not. Do not rob people of their blessing. Remember the widow and the two mites? She was at the temple, and Jesus observed her giving all she had and said in Luke chapter 21, verses 2 to 4, "So he said, Truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood she had. Now, to me, it's more interesting what Jesus does not do in this passage rather than what he does do. Okay, so he doesn't run up to her and say, no, no, miss, please, please, you're too poor. You need this money. You keep it. Instead, he allows her to give out of her poverty because he believes that she will be more blessed if she does. And that's amazing. We need to follow Jesus' example in this. Now, for some reason, my experience with most support raisers is that they seem to try and shrink their list, their contact list, rather than try and make it grow. They seem to be constantly culling down their list in the name of saving money on postage. Okay, that's a big mistake. When you take my teaching for very long, you'll learn that postage is an investment, not an expense. Anyways, this is not entrepreneurial thinking. When there are businesses out there that pay big dollars for address lists because they know that it will grow their business, why do support raisers try and get away with a small list? This is a mindset in support raising that needs to change. We need to be more entrepreneurial in our thinking. So make a list that is as big as possible and as mature as possible. Now, what do I mean by mature? I mean that it has to have as much contact information as possible. You need people's cell numbers, work numbers, home numbers, their email addresses, work and home addresses, etc., etc., etc. If they still communicate by fax, then you need to get their fax number. So, what does this have to do with the pigeon beside me? Okay, so see that picture of the pigeon? It's because one time when I was coaching about this, someone said to me, well, what if they use homing pigeons? We sort of had a laugh, but the reality is if they use homing pigeons to communicate, then you need to get a homing pigeon. Okay, do everything you can to get their contact information, and because we're going to be using all those channels of contact in the future. Create a large, robust, and mature contact list with as much information as possible. Next, determine to become a student of your sphere of influence. As one who raises support, it is essential that you know who God has placed in your life and why. You will not have maximum success if you just arbitrarily pick people out of your life who you think will support you. Coming up next, I want to lead you through an exercise where you will begin to become a student of your sphere of influence. For as long as you're raising support, you will want to practice being an expert on the people in your life, both new people who come into your life and the old ones as well. Step number 1 is download the CRM document at the bottom of this lesson window. So on the membership page there, you'll see the video that you've clicked on that you're probably watching now. And if you haven't expanded it to full screen, you'll see down on this same window below this video screen, there's a place to download this CRM document, or the Customer Relationship Management Tool document. It's in Google Sheets. So if you don't have Google Drive, you'll need to download that and get access to that. But this is a tool that you're going to be using now for maybe the rest of your support raising career. That is possible. Maybe not, but it could be possible. And this is going to be a worksheet that we use for lots and lots of lessons that are coming up. And so you're going to want to download this. You're going to want to keep it in a safe place. And this is where we're going to do the next steps, is on the sheet. So open it up, play with it a little bit, get familiar with it, press pause on this video, and then when you're done having a look at that, then come back and I'll give you the next step. Now, you already know what we are trying to do in this step. We are trying to create a great contact list of people who you can contact to support you. But I actually wish that you didn't know what we were going to do in this step, because then I think you would be more likely to follow my instructions and not biased as to who goes on your contact list and who doesn't. But anyways, pretend as much as you can that you are getting married later this year. Okay, so maybe you're already married, maybe you're not married, that's okay. But pretend that you're getting married later this year and you have to come up with a guest list of, ready, 220 names. You have to invite 220 people to your wedding. So this would be 110 from your side and then 110 from your spouse's side. Now, if you're not married, then you can come up with a list of 110 people that you would invite to your wedding, okay? So don't manipulate this list because you know that we're creating a donor list from this info. This should be a pure wedding list. Who are the top 220 people that you would invite to your wedding? Now, create this list into your CRM document or your customer relationship management tool document, okay? Now, I know 220 is a lot of people, but you have to invite all 220, okay? All that food is going to go to waste if you don't fill up your venue. Now, you may have to go beyond friends and family and add acquaintances or, very distant acquaintances, but you have to have 220 people. Now, the idea here is that if people are interested in your life enough to come to your wedding, then in theory, they should be interested enough in your life to receive a newsletter from you. Okay, that's in theory. We're not going to keep all these names of these people on your list. Don't worry. Okay, we're gonna go through and we're gonna vet this list later. But you need to make a very pure wedding list because remember, we're becoming a student of your sphere of influence. Become a student of your sphere of influence. So follow this step exactly. So here's an example of what the CRM looks like. Okay, and you'll see the arrows there pointing into the middle of the red circle to the B and C columns. So what you want to do is put their surname or their last name in column B, and then in column C, you put their first name. For couples, you could put both names in the C column and then use the ampersand symbol or the and symbol to separate the names as opposed to using the word and, A-N-D spelled out. Use the ampersand symbol because from what I understand, if you want to merge this information into another database in the future, then using the ampersand symbol will be much easier to do that with. Okay, so this is the document, this is the CRM that you want to build your list with, and I just wanted to show you where you write those names of those 220 people. Yes, those 220 people. After you've completed your wedding list, I know that was a big job, now I want you to add your friends from Facebook. Okay, now you may have a lot of friends. You may have 300, 500, 800 or more friends. I want you to add all your friends from your Facebook list. And then, if you're married, add all your spouse's friends as well. So, do I mean the whole list? I mean, yes, add the whole list to your CRM. Okay, use the B and C columns again. But again, I don't want you to worry. We're not going to be contacting all of these people for support, but I do want you to add them anyways because what you're doing by doing that is you're learning about your sphere of influence. Okay, so again, follow these instructions exactly and use the B and C columns to add Facebook names under your wedding list. Okay, now there's a third list of people who are in your life. Now, perhaps these are people who wouldn't be invited to your wedding and they don't have a Facebook account. So I'm thinking maybe of the elderly person who greets you in church. You know, you see them in the church lobby before or after the service, and they take an interest in your life. Okay, you shake their hands, you have meaningful exchanges, meaningful conversations. Perhaps they say they'll pray for you. Add this kind of person to your list as well. Now, probably at this point, maybe there's only 8 or 10 more people left in your life. Okay, but just think through, like, is there a colleague? Is there a boss? Is there, just a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant that you go to? But but there may be 8 or 10 people like this in your life. So put these people under your wedding list, under your Facebook list, and add them to your CRM as well. Now that you have created your 3 lists, you have probably exhausted all the names in your current sphere of influence, but you've done a great job. I know that must have been a ton of work. Now you need to prayerfully look at each name on your list. Okay? Prayerfully look at each precious name on your list. And this is where you start to become an expert on your sphere of influence. Okay? Now, most people don't think about their entire sphere of influence. They don't give it a second thought. But not you. Not you. You are a student and soon to become an expert on the people in your life. Who has God placed in your life who He is going to bless through their giving to your mission? Now it is time to vet your list. Now it's time to go through your list, and we're going to keep the people who we are going to send information to about you needing to raise support. So now what you want to do is take off the names of the people, and only these people. Take off the names of these people who would damage your relationship with them to keep them on. Okay, who is going to damage? Who is it going to damage relationship with if they get a support letter from you? Okay, or people who would destroy your opportunity to share the gospel with them. So let's face it, some people are hostile towards the gospel, and some people may be hostile towards support raising. You may even have close friends or relatives who do not agree with your support raising, Christian people even, a parent or a sibling even. You can and you should take these people off your list. Okay? Now, there's also that friend in grade 7. They ended up on your Facebook list. You can't remember if you added them as a friend 8 years ago or they added you as a friend 8 years ago, but it would just be creepy if they got a support letter from you. You know, that's okay. You can take them off as well. But you want to try and keep your list as big as possible. Everyone else should stay on this list. The point is, you want to be able to preach the gospel to these people, or at least be an example of Christ to them, and you don't want to destroy that by sending them a newsletter that's going to wreck relationship with them. Okay? Their salvation is more important than your support raising, and God will look after all of this. Okay? So now that you have removed these names, congratulations. You now have a complete list of people who we will want to communicate with about your ministry. This is the list that we're going to use going forward. So great job. Great work.